which was the difference between dealing with a toxic person and negotiating with difficult people, right? So I've done a lot of negotiation training over the years, and there's formulas of how you do it. But this is a really simplified, like 3-step thing that about when you're negotiating with difficult people. And it can be on very small things. It could be a friend, it could be a relative, it could be someone at work. But the first thing is in terms of preparation, right? You think about their motivations, their biases, their interests, and their constraints. It's always helpful to know the lay of the land of what you're dealing with. So quite simple there. I'm sure you do it naturally without even realizing it. The second thing is the styles. And I realized when I was looking at this page that the styles do harken back to the Thomas Gillen model, right? Where it is the different styles of conflict. So exploring the trade-offs is about how do you say, I'll give you this if you give me that. Avoiding ultimatums, which is staying away from the competing style, right? So is not to say, well, if you don't give me this, I'm done. That's very much a competing stance. Be collaborative, but of course, collaborative up to a point, as I demonstrated in terms of my example of my own self-learning on this one. And involving others. What I love about involving others with respect to, if you think about the different range of Thomas Gillen, when you think about how do you make sure that you're getting to a solution that is assertive, not just for yourself, but for a broader group? If you can bring others into it, then you have a much better chance of, one, having people with multiple styles and multiple interests, but two, you're able to end up with a much more collective, positive outcome, right? If you're bringing others into the process. And then lastly, in terms of getting to resolution, always bring solutions to the table. When things are going sideways, always focus on consequences. So don't focus on what you originally wanted, but the consequences of where you are. So what's going to happen if we don't get here? And I remember this one, actually early in my career, I was consulting for airlines and on their healthcare plans. And one of the negotiations that I got to do was with the flight attendants union. And it's exactly as you would have expected it if you could stereotypically hypothesize what a scenario of negotiating with flight attendants union looks like. And this focusing on the consequences was, and by the way, the airline that we were consulting for was on the verge of bankruptcy. It ended up being bought by another airline, so it was saved, but it was going to go under, and half these flight attendants were going to lose their jobs. So it was really easy to focus on the consequences there, but it was amazing how often I would see in those negotiations how they were just focusing on the what they wanted, as opposed to really being able to understand what the consequences were of the decisions that they were making. And so once we were able to reverse engineer it a little bit, we were able to get them to come to change their stance on a few things, not all of them, but a few of the things. And then the most important rule that I learned from actually my negotiation professor in business school was never bluff. It's a really simple one. No matter what you do, don't ever bluff in a negotiation. It always backfires on you. So this also came to mind when I was working on some of my notes from the last week and a half. And so I thought I would throw that in.